On September 11th, 2025, Beth, an artist and activist, asked Yara Shahidi activist in a Forbes interview on how she felt about her world right now. Yara answered honestly by saying she is terrified and would like a plan to fix it. I empathize in that no one should live in fear. In my opinion, this sounds like a plea for help. I would like to help, but how? When Yara Shahidi was younger, she did an equality speech on October 19, 2018 at the Least and Respect Awards. I argue the speech is the hypothesis to fix her world and to reduce her fear. In April 2024, I published my book on Amazon based on this hypothesis, showing that prevention will lead to equity and that equity will lead to equality. This hypothesis will fix the political, economic, and social problems in her world and our world. This nonprofit, non-edited channel is a letter to Yara Shahidi and teaching Yara's hypothesis to the public in order to better our world. In the end, Yara Shahidi will get the Nobel Peace Prize for her hypothesis. Dear Yara Shahidi. So weird when I said chapter 21, Justice Equality. Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The racism experts said that in order to get rid of racism, people have to change what is acceptable in the society and in the messages about who is bad or good. As mentioned before, income inequality is one of the strongest predictors for violence. This violence is diminished with the resources of the police, the courts, and the prisons. For example, mass incarceration is a form of violence. It is a kind of psychological violence on a mass scale that destroys people's will. As stated before, prevention can be used to diminish income inequality, violence, and who is bad in the society, like with an IEP, Lamana Plus, psychological intervention, microloans, happiness, cognitive structure, etc. Even with all these tools mentioned so far, justice prevention is still needed with the police, the courts, and the prisons. When justice equality is achieved with prevention, then Dr. King's dream for equality for all will be realized. The first part of justice equality is police reform. Studies have shown that body-worn cameras on police officers can increase accountability for police, but producing that accountability has produced mixed results. Further, 1,000 civilians are killed each year by law enforcement officers in the United States. Plus, studies have shown that black men are 2.5 times more likely than white men to be killed by police during their lifetime, and unarmed black people are fatally shot by police 2 times more than unarmed white people. Miranda rights given by police officers to people arrested is a way for the criminal suspect to know they have the right to remain silent in whatever the officer says or demands, and can ask for a free attorney given to this person by the state. This right is a constitutional requirement that once a person is arrested, then they have the right not to incriminate themselves further without a person representing them to help them navigate this terrible predicament. So funny. How do you achieve justice equality with the police? Police are typically responsible for maintaining police order and safety, enforcing the law, and preventing, detecting, and investigating criminal activities. Most scientists agree that the common feature among all the different agencies engaged in policing is the legal competence to enforce coercive, non-negotiable measures to resolve problematic situations. These situations are characterized by 2 features, which are their potential for harm and the need to solve them urgently before they develop that potential. For this reason, the actual use of coercion or the threat of using it allows police to put a quick, non-negotiated, and conclusive end to problematic situations, like keeping people away from a scene of a fire for their own protection and allow the firemen to do their job. In school, students will learn about police maintaining order and public safety, enforcing the law, and prevention. In this understanding, students will know the purpose of police and how they are a vital part of the society for safety and security for opposing domestic and international forces. Students will also be taught that being a police officer is a noble career with a lot of stress because this person is putting their life on the line every day to protect the individual, town, city, state, and nation's security. Students will also be taught how to handle themselves around police from the police's perspective and from the individual's perspective. When students understand the police's perspective, they will know that most police officers are good people who want to stop the deterioration of their town, city, state, or nation. They will also know that police officers are humans that are doing a job and they would like to get home to their families in one piece each night. Lastly, they will know that a police officer's job is to control the situation from preventing it from getting worse. As stated before, this control is a very powerful position. If this power is not handled correctly, then mistakes can take place and some officers can take advantage of that power. If this is the case, then people can get hurt or even die from these encounters. If this power is handled correctly by most police officers, then the bad guys are taken to jail and the police are rewarded as heroes to the individual town, city, and nation. Students will also be taught on how to handle themselves around police from the individual's perspective. Students will be taught that most encounters with police are fairly routine and nothing happens. With other random times when people encounter police, mistakes happen. In order to prevent a mistake or an officer taking advantage of their power, then the individual will be taught to do nothing. For example, most encounters with a police officer happens when an individual is pulled over for speeding. When this happens, then the police officer will ask for the individual's driver's license, car insurance, and the vehicle's registration. Police officers have been killed in traffic stop situations, and the officer's approach to the vehicle is potentially the most dangerous moment. The proper form when encountering police is to be nice and pleasant and do what the officer says. If the person is calm, then it makes the officer and the environment calm as well. Well, what if you are a person who is afraid of the police and are afraid they will kill you? Then what do? Do nothing. As I said before, a police officer's main job is to control the situation before it escalates further. The police officer in a pullover has to determine if this individual is a threat to society by seeing if this person has any warrants out for their arrest or if they are a stand-up citizen with a clean record. In either case, it is an unknown situation for the officer, and it can be pretty scary. It is hard to develop empathy, sympathy, or even trust for anyone in a brief encounter like this. How can doing nothing be better with the police officer? If people are paranoid about the police and are afraid that if people are paranoid about the police and are afraid that they will kill them, then they can control themselves by remaining quiet until their free lawyer is present, as the Miranda rights say. This will help this individual instead of feeling like a future victim. When the individual has their car door unlocked, with their arms crossed, grabbing their trapezius muscles, crossing their legs, and looking forward only, then the individual can say to the officer, "Please arrest me and tell me my rights because I am not saying anything or cooperating with you until my lawyer is present." Actually, the simplest phrase would be to just say to the officer, read me my rights. It would mean the same thing. After this, the officer will arrest the individual and put them into their police car only. This means that the officer has full control of the situation and the paranoid person will feel safest in the back of the police car. If the police officer arrests the individual and puts them on the sidewalk, then there is still that uncomfortableness by the police officer that the individual will get up and run away from the police officer with the handcuffs on. This could be a potential situation for the individual to be shot or worse. The back of the police car is the safest place for both the individual and police officer for paranoid people encountering police officers. Once the individual is in the back of the police car, then the police officer can search the car for the individual's license, registration, and insurance on their own, with the officer in complete control of the situation. When students are taught this in school, they will show the police officer the Wakanda salute with their arms and legs crossed, as stated before. The police officer will know this Wakanda salute in their police academy training. This will show the police officer that this student will not cooperate with the police in any way, and that they are volunteering to be arrested on purpose for the safety of their well-being in both mental and physical understandings. In this way, the police officer controls the situation, and the individual is being taken out of the situation by doing nothing. The students are preventing any physical or mental harm that they think they might encounter with the police to help both parties get home in one piece back to their families in the safest manner possible. In this manner, the student will never be shot for a mistake on the individual's or police's part. Plus, the student will never have PTSD or a mental health breakdown from a bad situation from a police officer. In this way, this will get rid of people getting shot and dying for no reason because the individual was unharmed. Now, when a person is arrested and put in the back of a police squad car, the police officer's body camera will record everything that happens with the individual and the police officer. When the individual is silent and sitting there, then the conduct is solely placed on the officer. If the officer does his or her or non-binary person's job correctly, then the individual will be released with a ticket, warning, or be taken to jail for whatever reason. If the officer is abusing their power in the situation, then again, they are being recorded. If the officer's conduct is repulsive, then disciplinary action can be taken against the officer. One way to help a police officer on the job, especially with an unpredictable traffic stop, is to have a more experienced officer helping with the situation. For example, if a police officer pulls over a pedestrian for speeding, then the sergeant to the lieutenant to the captain can be there looking over the officer's shoulders, so to speak. With the police body camera showing everything in real time, what the police officer is doing, then this person in charge can direct this person safely with their many years of experience. I argued that with multiple people sharing responsibility on what is happening, then mistakes and then casualties will be reduced and maybe even diminished in the process. Plus, abuse of power of an officer could be put in check by the experienced officer monitoring the situation. Also, an abusive pedestrian can be dealt with promptly without any harm coming to that person or the officer. Of course, studies can be done to make sure this is valid. Just to be clear, everyone wants to be safe and go home to their families without an incident happening. With an experienced officer overlooking the traffic stop, then this will be more prevalent to work. How can disciplinary action be taken against the police officer? When the handcuffs come off from an innocent bystander, they will be given a recording from the body camera. The police officer will conduct their business by explaining to the camera what they are doing, like on this old house on PBS. The police officer is educating the public on what they are doing and how they are proceeding with their investigation of the individual. For example, the police officer can explain in detail what they are going through. For example, the police officer can explain in detail that they are going through the glove compartment of the vehicle and looking for the individual's license, insurance, and registration. If a person is arrested, then the body camera video will be given. If a person is arrested, then the body camera video will be given to the individual's lawyer. For the innocent individual who believes they were treated horribly by the police officer, or that they do not agree with a speeding ticket, then this person can receive a lawyer through a microloan in order to sue the police department, or they can defend themselves in traffic court in front of a judge. When the judge looks at the body camera footage with the officer's explanation in detail, for the individual arrested, or for the individual seeking compensation for the inappropriate conduct of the police officers or for the individual seeking compensation for the inappropriate conduct on the police officer's behalf, or for the individual defending themselves from a traffic ticket, then the judge will decide who is at fault based on the body camera footage. If the police officer is favored in the judge's decision, then their record will be expunged of this incident, and they will have then their record will be expunged of this incident, and they will be on their way for a promotion for doing their job correctly. In this case, the individual will have to pay for the court costs. Now, if the individual wins their court case, then they would be compensated by the police department, or their ticket would have been thrown out. After this, a police officer would be disciplined. If the judge favors the individual arrested, then they can be set free or will be thrown in jail longer if the judge comes down on the individual. In the end, the individual and the police officer are both recorded and seen on the body camera on the conduct of their behavior toward each other. In both cases, they have the means and ability to defend themselves equally in front of a judge and be rewarded or disciplined if they win or lose their case through the body camera footage in a court of law. When students are taught this in school, they will learn to be an advocate for themselves in court. For example, if a person feels as though they were racially profiled by the police, then the data is in the body camera. A study could be done on the body camera over a period of time to see if the data fits with the accusations put on this officer. With the body camera, the police officer can defend themselves equally with the person accusing them. The study would show the truth on what has been going on in the officer's career. The body camera and the study can be used in any encounter, and the body camera and the study can be used in any encounter an individual had with the police, good or bad. This can be used by any police department from across the town, city, state, or nation. The same can be said for the police officer. Justice has to go both ways for both parties to acquire a fair outcome. This is why justice equality is so needed, because it is an advocate for police and the individual and hopes to build peace and trust in communities across the nation in order to protect and serve. When it comes to body cameras of police officers, transparency is key. The police officers work for the public, and the public has to the police officers work for the public, and the public has the right to know what is going on with the taxes they are putting out. Government is an institution that should be transparent to the public, and police departments are no different. I argue that all police officers should wear body cameras, and that the individual police officer can't turn their body camera off for anything. After that, I argue that all police officers to the police departments will be under review in individual studies on the body camera footage to know the full extent on how each police officer is behaving correctly under the law of the land. Next, I argue that body cameras be given to the press every 6 months so that they can analyze and verify what is going on. Lastly, after the analysis of the press and studies being published about the body cameras are done, then all body cameras are to be hooked up to the internet in order for the public to know the full transparency of the police departments. What will the discipline be for the police officer if found guilty by a judge? There have been many discipline actions police officers have faced over the years, like a demotion, loss of pay, fired, sent to jail, unpaid leave, retraining, etc. What remains the same is the police officer themselves. I argue what will change the officer from not doing bad things again, for the most part, will be from the individual study that incorporates an empathy and prefrontal cortex evaluation from an FMRI scan. The individual study will be the why the officer is acting this way and what started this type of thinking in the first place. Next, the study can backtrack through the police officer's body camera footage on what started their downward spiral to being undisciplined from being a fine officer. When the answer is found and rehabilitation is done for the officer to obtain empathy toward the people they are serving in their prefrontal cortex, then this officer can go back to work in protecting the public. If they can't, then other work will be given to them until they have opportunity to pass the empathy test. If the work is done to solve their problem or problems, then they can get back to work. I will describe what a psychological evaluation might be. The first part of the study will be a psychological evaluation of the police officer. Next, there will be an examination of their record, from police reports to body cameras, to examine when the police officer went off the rail, so to speak. The police records and psychological evaluation can pinpoint the exact cause and situation when the police officer felt overwhelmed with the job and determine a diagnosis for the problem to be rehabilitated to get back to work. Further evidence can be collected on the physical aspects of the brain. Scientists can test the police officer's empathy level toward people and conduct prefrontal cortex socialization situations used on this region to see if it is lighting up under the FMRI. As stated before, people use their hypothalamus more when humans are judging or thinking less of people or think negatively about that person. Humans engage with their prefrontal cortex with socializing or basically thinking positively positively about someone. When the scientists accumulate all this data in a published study that is replicated and peer-reviewed by other scientists across the country, the recommendations can be set forth to help the police officer to recover, so to speak, so they can get back to their job. Now, once the officer has done the therapy, the exercises, and the new psychological evaluations and FMRI exams will be conducted. Once the individual study is replicated and peer-reviewed again, and their empathy is well established, then the police officer will be cleared for duty to resume their job to protect and serve the public. As I mentioned before, this same progress of psychological evaluation and fMRI scans will be used for prevention to help the students be normal, so to speak, or be advocates for their mental health from 2 years old to graduation. The same process will also be used for prisoners and soldiers from war so that they can come back to society and function as Americans again, just like a student in school. And for the immigrants wanting to live in the United States, they will be trained with microloans, the ability to get a job, work with Lamana Plus, people, etc. Students, immigrants, prisoners, police officers, soldiers, fast food employees, white and blue collar workers, governors of states to presidents of the United States will be evaluated and helped because we are all humans that are all capable of having empathy toward one another. All humans want to be happy, find their purpose, find out why they are here, and have the freedom and knowledge to do this life well with family and friends by their side. This is Lamana Plus and Dr. King's dream. It all starts with prevention, equity, and equality for all. This is the type 1 civilization in 2100, so justice and equality is needed to make sure this happens. Besides police, there are alternatives to police that can help with society's problems. In Eugene, Oregon, there is CAHOOTS, or Crisis Assistance Helping Out Off the Streets. CAHOOTS has been around for 30 years, and they respond to nonviolent and non-criminal 911 calls. They respond with a crisis worker and an EMT in a white van and carry no weapon. no weaponry. They carry no weapons, like guns, pepper spray, etc. It costs $2.1 million, or 2% of the police's $90 million budget. A typical call is meeting with people where they are and then help that person or those people by getting them to a space that is safer. The Cahoots personnel start talking to the individual in need through de-escalation with snacks and water, so the person feels comfortable enough to vent their frustrations. The Cahoots personnel then ask questions and use empathy to show the person or persons in need that they care what is happening to them. After that, they try to see if a solution or solutions can be resolved for them. Another alternative to police is what is happening in Baltimore, Maryland. The city is turning into innovative intervention to prevent violence. The same methods used to fight infectious diseases from data are used to stop shootings. The starting point in any epidemic is to detect where the next event might occur and interrupt that exposure. In order to do this, a new type of public health worker was created called a violence interpreter. A violence interpreter is a health worker who can know what is going on and find where an event might be likely to happen. In this way, they can prevent its progression by cutting off the epidemic itself. I'm going to stop here because the chapter is really long. This is part 1 of 2. And so, ich ni san shi go. Kuju, konnichiwa, balloon wiwi, hola, buenos dias, adios, we all win together, de nada, adios.